Hi. Can you all just take one big, deep breath with me, please? And exhale. One more. And exhale. Thank you, I needed that. Okay, so let me work this. Who I am and why do I care? I have the privilege of going to all of the school gardens on Galveston Island from the most different socioeconomic levels, from the most expensive, most high-end school areas to the most marginalized. And I get to visit all of those school gardens on a regular basis and engage with the kids, the teachers, the administrators, and of course, the garden leaders. Some of the things that I've noticed over the time that I've been there since 2017 is the demographics in Galveston has changed. And because the demographics in the area where I am have changed, it's my responsibility to make sure that we address the needs of all the kids in our district. Now, Galveston is about 50% white. It's been that way for quite a while. But the next groups that have changed are that kind of volley back and forth are the African American community and the Spanish-speaking or Hispanic identifying community. And recently, it's changed quite a bit, and the Spanish-speaking community is quite a bit larger at about 30% on our island. That's made me have to take a look at how we do what we do, how we engage with the kids on our island, and how we address some biases that we may have about ourselves, about what's normal, and about what is engaging for the kids. And that's what I want to talk to everyone today about, understanding, accepting, and being willing to have the uncomfortable part of what is the quiet part that no one's talking about when the demographics change in your area. What are you doing to address the students in your area that might not be from the culture that you're from? What is your perspective on how they engage with your gardens? Are you willing to be uncomfortable? Are you willing to get comfortable being uncomfortable, talking about the hard topics that have to do with making sure your students get everything your missions say that they should get when they come to your gardens? One of the ways that we can do that is by making sure that we have access and opportunity. When students come to the gardens, some of the things that I noticed with some of the Spanish-speaking and the learners, is that they were separating themselves in the gardens. Not because they wanted to be separate, but because they couldn't speak the language. And our garden leaders couldn't speak the language, so they were having a difficult time engaging the students in the garden. And I had to look at myself as the program director and say, what can I do differently? How can our team make this a more inclusive opportunity and a more inclusive garden for all of the kids to have the same experience? Was I making it just students coming through the garden, or was I looking at them as tiny humans? Representation matters, and I felt this so profoundly one day when I was going into the gardens. Like I said, I get to visit all of the school gardens, and this particular day, I wait in the gardens for all the kids to come out into the school, and on this particular day, I was in our Rosenberg garden, our very first garden on the island, and the kids, they all come running out, and they're like, Miss Honi, Miss Honi. And I saw the little kids come out, and two little girls, about 7 or 8 years old, each one grabbed my hands, and we're walking through the garden, and our arms are just swinging, and we're walking along, and one of them swung her arm up, and she said, Miss Honi, our arms are the same color. And I said, yes, they are. And the other one said, and guess what? Our hair is the same. These were two brown little girls who noticed this about ourselves. I almost cried in that moment from joy and from sadness. I wanted to cry from joy because they noticed. They saw someone who looked like them doing something that they enjoyed, that they felt good about, and now they had confirmation that they too could experience this and find joy in it. It made me sad because they noticed, because it happened so infrequently that they had to point it out. We want to make sure that the students in our gardens don't have to point out the differences because we're doing our part to make sure we show them representation. In Galveston, I don't know how many of you know, Galveston, who knows what Juneteenth is? Woo, Juneteenth. Galveston is the birthplace of Juneteenth. So we have a history there that is very convoluted, and we've got to make sure we address that history. Because gardening in and of itself can have its own problem, right? Because the people were working the land. But we had to turn the gardens around so that they don't feel like they're doing work that they were forced to do before, but now that they want to do and is ancestral. And the same for our immigrant and Mexican-American students, the same thing. So we wanted to make sure that they understand what their history is and how to turn it around and make it something positive. How many of you have ever been invited somewhere? You get on an email thread or you get invited somewhere and you get really excited about going to whatever the event is, only to get there and realize you're one of only a few. You might be the only Black person, the only Native person, the only indigenous person in the room, the only woman. And when you get there, no one has done anything in particular to make you feel welcome, but they invited you. That's what we don't want to have happen to our students. A lot of times we invite everyone into the garden, but we don't do anything in particular to make sure they feel welcome. We had to look at our understanding of what a gardening program was and do things to change, to make sure that the students felt welcome in the garden. We talked earlier today, people were talking about the cafeteria food service programs that they have, and ours is called Eat Fresh. And we go and harvest from all of our gardens and take that food into our cafeterias, chop it up, and serve it to the kids. But we wanted our Spanish-speaking students to feel as included. So we created all of our signage, all of our flyers, all of our posters are in English and in Spanish. And during the day, during the lunchtime, we talk to the kids. So we don't just feed them the food, but we do a survey system and ask them if they liked it or if they don't like it. So in order to engage all of our Spanish-speaking students, we invite our community, people from our community that speak Spanish to come in. We invite the leaders from our organization to come in and intentionally talk with our Spanish language students too, so that they also feel part of the conversation. So we engage them about food and all of their interactions throughout that program and in our garden programs. It's important to look at our own stereotypes and expectations of the students that come through our gardens. We have biases based on who we are, where we come from, and how we engaged life. And sometimes we have a tendency of acting and thinking as if those things are the norm. The way we do it is the normal way, and that we should teach everyone else to do things like we do. We've got to learn to unlearn. We've got to learn to do things differently. And what do you expect about gender roles? People are identifying very differently now, but are you unconsciously offering the wheelbarrow experiences to the boys and the planting experiences to the girls? Are you assuming that people from Black and brown communities may not want to garden, and so you don't offer them that? Or do you automatically assume that your white students are the ones that are going to be more engaged with the scientific and the academic part of gardening? We've got to learn to unlearn what we do and how we engage in our gardens. We want to make sure that we are attending to the cultural relevance, but not treating our groups of people like they're a monolith, right? Because I can't speak for every Black woman, every Black person, but I'd love to speak for mine if somebody asked. And we got to give our children that same opportunity. We shouldn't talk at them, but talk with them and give them the opportunity to talk to us and tell us who they are, where they come from, how they experience food, how they experience gardening, and what they would like to experience within the garden. We need to give them that space and opportunity to do that. Learning to unlearn takes courage, it takes strength, and it takes wisdom. And one of the ways that we had to do, we literally took our whole entire leadership team, went back to the drawing board and looked at what we were doing, why we were doing it, and what words and languages we were using. And we had to make sure that we were including all of the different diverse people in our gardens. And one of the things that we learned that I always say is, if you're studying your curriculum, if you're trying to figure out what your program needs are, and everyone in the room looks like you don't have the right people in the room. You've got to have the people that reflect the students in your garden there and available to have the discussions with you, to give their input, to get their feedback. Because if everyone looks like you, you're in the wrong room, and you can't provide the services that your people need. You can't provide what your kids need if you're white and everyone that you're serving is a different culture or ethnicity or gender identifying group. You're not going to provide the services, and you're going to wonder why they're not relating to it. It takes a lot of self-introspection. It takes a lot of standing back and saying, I don't know what I don't know, but I want to learn. Today I want to ask you, learn to unlearn. Go back to your gardens, go back to your communities, and find out the best way to learn to unlearn and say the quiet part out loud. There's a lot of whisperings and quiet parts that people talk about that they want to know, are they being appropriate? Are they appropriating? Are they saying the right thing? Find safe places like this. I ask you, we only have one more day left. Go and intentionally talk to somebody that you see here of a different culture, ethnicity, that identifies differently than you, and talk with them. Ask them those quiet questions that you wish you knew the answer to. This is a safe place. Find those people, ask those questions, say the quiet part out loud, and learn to unlearn.
Thank you.